that lightsaber. It belongs to me. Come get it.
Hey guys, welcome back to Tethan Props. I'm Jeremy, and sorry it's been so long since my last video. I've been busy getting married and getting a dog and all that kind of stuff. So I'm gonna make a big effort to make more tutorials, so stick around for a lot more videos. I decided to make Kylo Ren's lightsaber from The Force Awakens. If any of you have seen the trailer for The Last Jedi, you'll see a short clip in there that's got Kylo Ren's lightsaber on the ground, and it looks really clean and really shiny. So I don't know if that's flashback, whether he cleans the lightsaber, gets it refurbished or anything like that, but I just decided to go with the one that is in The Force Awakens because I really like how beat up and how used it is. It's 3D printed, so I got the files from my Manufacturer online, so I'll put a link below so you can access those files yourself. I printed this out in PLA plastic, so overall it was about 10 hours of printing time. So all up, there was 7 parts to this lightsaber, so I printed them all out separately. So I printed this in PLA, not ABS, which means it's a lot harder to sand. You can't use acetone smoothing on it to smooth it out, so it just takes a lot of hard work with sanding it down with sandpaper, using filler primer to fill in all those little gaps, sanding it, filler priming, sanding, filler priming. So you just repeat that process maybe 5 times and you end up with a perfectly smooth and uniform surface over the whole thing. When gluing together 3D prints, I like to use 5-minute epoxy because it means that you can have that little bit of extra time to get them in the right spot, get them where you want, rather than something like super glue where as soon as you touch those together, they are glued there solidly. Once it was all glued together, I gave it one final coat with filler primer and sanded that back, getting it ready for paint. So to paint this, I started off with a clear gloss undercoat, so just painted the entire thing, make sure I got every single part covered because the filler primer that I was using was yellow, so you don't want any yellow bits poking through the paint. Once I got the gloss black down, I then used a aluminium silver spray paint, and I used a very light coat just to build up a sort of more metallic feel to the gloss black. And because it was gloss, it means it was already nice and shiny, so I just need to get the hint of silver to it because Kylo Ren's lightsaber is a black lightsaber, but it does have a tinge of silver throughout it. So it was a very light coating of aluminium silver and it gave it a really nice effect. To do all the little highlights that you see on the handle and a bit lower down on the pommel, I simply just masked those off and used the same silver spray paint and gave them a solid colour. So on this lightsaber, on the emitters on the sides here, there's actually a bit of tarnishing to the metal, so it's a lot silver versus the black of the rest of the hilt. So to do that, I simply just held it out to the side, got my silver spray paint and just really lightly came in from the side, so I just coloured the ends and it gave a nice transition between the silver and the black. So after I'd finished the painting, it was then time to add in the cables. So for the blue cables up here, they were already 3D printed into it, so I simply just went over them with some blue acrylic paint. The red cable that's going along the whole length of it, that was also 3D printed in there. So what I did was I cut out the actual 3D printed part, but left the little connectors that you'll see throughout it. So when I removed those, I simply just drilled through the connectors so I can poke an actual cable through. And I just got an old cable that I had lying around, threaded that in and put it into the top and bottom. After the cables were installed, it was then time to get weathering it. So as I said, I wanted to do Kylo Ren's lightsaber from The Force Awakens. So it's really beat up in that. So I went first with my silver permanent marker and just went over every single highlight that I could think of because this thing's been thrown around, it's scratched all on the ground. So I'm imagining that this is a silver lightsaber that's been painted black once you turn to the dark side. So everywhere that it's been scratched, the ground, all the corners, it's going to expose the bare metal underneath. So that's why I went with silver, and on all the corners of where it will be lying, touching the ground and causing scratches. So I did that over the entire lightsaber, and also I'm thinking that it was painted, so there's also going to be a bit of wear and tear from where he's actually holding it, and the paint's going to rub off. So where his thumb's holding, where his palm is, I'm just imagining that over time a little bit of paint's going to come off there. So instead of scratches, it's kind of like a wearing of the paint. So to do the last part of the leathering, I used burnt sienna, black, browns, anything that would make it look like it was real dirt that was building up everywhere on the lightsaber. So I did it in a wash fashion, so I would paint on a ton of the weathering colour, and then I'd get a cloth and I'd wipe 99% of it off. And it just leaves little specks in all the areas where dirt would naturally accumulate. So after all the weathering was done, it was finished. It was time to just put a few clear coats on there to seal in all the paint, otherwise when you're handling it, it would all rub off. I would give this a difficulty of maybe 3 out of 5 DL44 blasters. I give it a 3 out of 5 because it is 3D printed, so the base shape is already done for me. 3D printing can be hard in itself, but I've gotten really used to it now where I can do it fairly easily. The sanding and the priming was not difficult, just really time consuming. And then the painting was just a lot of fun. It's a pretty straightforward paint job, but the weathering was where it really comes into its own. Thanks very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it helps you guys make your own, whether it's the lightsabers, anything else that you're 3D printing and finishing up, you can use the same concepts, so it'll help with any kind of prop that you're making. Feel free to subscribe. I'm going to be coming up with a lot more build tutorials of other cool things, most likely from Star Wars, given that The Last Jedi is coming out soon, so I'm going to be really excited about that. So subscribe and stay tuned. Thanks very much.